reefer! Hey, hey, ho, ho! We don't want your drug war! Bix Smokes reefer! Hey, hey, ho, ho! We don't want your drug war! Bix Smokes reefer! Hey, hey, ho, ho! We don't want your drug war! Bix Smokes reefer! Hey, hey, ho, ho! We don't want your drug war! Bix Smokes reefer! Hey, hey, ho, ho! We don't want your drug war! Bix Smokes reefer! Hey, hey, ho, ho! We don't want your drug war!
Bix Smokes reefer!
Excellent.
All right. Hey, by now you should all know that Bix was a reefer smoker. Bix smoked reefer. Bix inhaled reefer. Bix liked reefer. Bix smoked reefer every time he played. See, Bix smoked reefer for inspiration to play hot. And that's what jazz swing music is about, is playing hot. You get the groove and you jam out. Okay, and this is Bix Weekend. We've been playing some songs for you here with some classic songs from the 20s and 30s about reefer. And it should dispel any myth that pot is something that they came up with in the 60s. It's not. It was around a long time before that. It was made illegal in 1937, and they released a movie, Reefer Madness. They made it illegal. They used a slang term from Mexico, marijuana. Most people knew it as cannabis hemp, and they used a slang term from Mexico, marijuana, to make it illegal. It was something mysterious to them. If the hemp farmers knew that they were talking about the same thing, they never would have been able to make it illegal. Okay? Reefer's been around a long time, folks. It's been around for thousands of years, okay? And it's just been the last 50-some years that they've tried to make it illegal, okay? And a lot of times the media and the press, they try to portray us out here trying to re-legalize the herb. They try to portray us as some kind of radical new idea that's dangerous, okay? And the important thing we got to remember here is that reefer has been with us for thousands of years, us humans. Carl Sagan himself, a noted anthropologist, said that the cannabis hemp plant was the first plant ever cultivated by mankind. When we were a hunter-and-gatherer society, that it was the hemp plant was the first plant that we cultivated that moved us towards an agrarian society. And we all know what agrarian society brought us. If you plant your plants, you want to be able to harvest them, so you have to be able to protect your plants. And that's where the police come in. We had to hire police to protect our cannabis hemp plants. Woo! That's the history of the world and the human social revolution. Okay, Bix smoked, and Bill Clinton smoked, another jazz musician. He likes to play his saxophone on TV with his shades so he can cover up his dilated red eyeball pupils and stuff. Bill Clinton smokes, and now it's in the last week or two, it's come out that there's 41 White House staff members who are currently marijuana users. Okay? Now this dispels a major myth, okay? They say that pot makes you amotivational, you will never achieve anything, you will be stupid, and you'll never be able to accomplish anything, okay? Well, these people made it to the White House, and they're reefer smokers, okay? So, what does that say? That says that you as a reefer smoker, can be president if you don't get caught. Because if you get caught, it'll be on your police record, and it will haunt you your whole life. It'll keep you from getting the little jobs that you got to get to work up to be president. Okay? Right on. Right on. Okay. We got some announcements. We got our Wall of Shame over here with drug war POWs. Okay? If you have a friend or relative or someone you know is currently doing time because of the war on drugs, that we're encouraging you to write their name, their sentence on the wall and stuff, a little message of love to them, okay? Because we got to show the media and the public that there are really people doing real time here, okay? Because they seem to think that, we're just getting slapped on the wrist. And the reality of it is, they say the reefer makes us violent criminals. They say that drugs make us violent criminals, but yet, and so they have to punish us to keep us from going out and becoming violent criminals. Well, the important thing here is that the people who get caught with reefer and drugs get more time than the violent criminals. It makes no sense.
You're right, yeah.
Okay? And so we're trying to turn that around, you know. We are not telling people to go out and do drugs. What we are saying is that that you should not go to jail for doing drugs, okay? Now, if you're going to smoke reefer, we think that the cannabis hemp plant should be legalized for all uses, plain and simple, okay? All right? We do not... Industrial uses. These shoes are made out of hemp. These pants are made out of hemp. This hip sack is made out of hemp, okay? It's a nice, natural, soft fiber. It's the strongest natural soft plant fiber on the planet, okay? And it would be really good for our environment to grow it, okay? It's medicine. The seeds make oil. 30% oil in the hemp seed, okay? And it's got amino acids in it that are more digestible by the human body than other vegetable protein sources like soybeans. It's more digestible than soybeans, and it's 38% protein, okay? Hemp can make great fuel. The oil in the hemp seed can be used in any diesel machinery, as well as the biomass from the hemp plant can be used to make ethanol. All right, they use corn to make ethanol. Well, hemp is way more productive. All right, hemp creates way more biomass, which is what they need to start with to make the alcohol, than corn or any other plant source. It'll grow 20 foot tall in a 3-month season, okay? And how many plants will do that? And they plant it, I'm not sure exactly, I forget how many seeds per square foot or whatever, but it's amazing that the plants are like really close together, okay? You know, and then they just grow taller because of that. All right, and we know that the inner stalk is what they use to make the cloth and the rope and the twine. And hemp rope used to mean that, you know, quality rope. They would say hemp rope, okay? And it should be noted that the second governor of Iowa was a hemp rope manufacturer, okay? That is a fact. The fifth governor of Iowa's last name was Hempstead, all right? And we know that he must have got that somehow. Somebody in his history grew hemp. All right, and in Iowa in 1943, they grew 3,000 acres of hemp. The Iowa farmers were asked to grow 60,000 acres of hemp, but they ran short on seed, okay, because it had been made illegal in 37, and now in 43, they're asking the Iowa farmers to grow it again because our fiber had been cut off from Southeast Asia or whatever, from the Pacific Rim, because of World War II, and we needed it to be able to win the war. Hemp for victory. There's a poster hanging over there that was found in a courthouse in Iowa, and I think it was printed by the Iowa Department of Agriculture. Grow hemp for the war. Okay, hemp grown in Iowa helped us win World War II, and that was part of what we were fighting for. Our sphere of influence in Asia was because we needed the fibers that they were producing, because we had made hemp illegal. And we couldn't grow our fibers here. So we had to import them, and then we had to go to war to maintain those imports, okay? Anyway, we do not advocate the use of hard or addictive drugs, okay, at all, in any way, shape, or form. We do not recommend it or suggest it, okay? But what we do think is that arrest and imprisonment are not proper solutions, okay? We need to find other alternatives. We need to be reasonable about this and sensible. It just seems that this drug war hysteria is not based on any kind of sense. It's not pragmatic in the slightest. It's basically to feed the most basic instinct to just, you know, I don't know, you know. It's irrational. It makes no sense.
It's a business. It makes
Corruption.
Okay. Now I want to talk about the police, the Davenport police, and Hemp Fest on Credit Island, okay? Basically, a lot of people here were there. all right? And what happened at Credit Island was wrong, okay? It was totally wrong. The police searched, we estimate 50% of the vehicles going into there, okay? I don't know how many of you here were hassled, but they hassled a lot of people coming in. They had amnesty barrels. There was a heavy police presence. There was 50 police officers that they will admit to being on the site from the beginning, all right? We believe that they went there with the intent purpose of shutting us down, and they kept saying to the media afterwards, we showed them, we shut them down for good this time. They weren't supposed to be back, and now we shut them down. And they kept saying that over and over. That was their intent, was to shut us down, okay? We believe they tried in every way to provoke a riot, okay? They had double agents. There was people in the crowd with long hair, wearing a pig's face on the front of their shirt and a pig's butt on the back, running around screaming, pigs, pigs, whatever about the pigs. And then 5 minutes later, this guy is wearing a police uniform attending to an officer on the ground with a broken leg. All right, and I might add, I was charged with breaking the officer's leg, okay, and I did not do it. I did not see it happen, but witnesses tell me that I was handcuffed on the ground, face down, when it happened 10 foot away, and that two officers tripped over each other. There was too many officers there. They were tripping over each other. That is what happened at Credit Island, okay? And I don't believe that they can convict me of that charge in any way. And hopefully some of you will help make it to my court date. I don't think they have a leg to stand on. Okay, what happened? The police were using their heavy-handed tactics. They was upsetting people, and they went to take a woman's purse, and they're wrenching it out of her hand. Okay, and they did not have a right to take her purse, but we're trying to give this woman to give up consent to it, okay? And the thing about your rights is that if you don't assert them, you don't have them, okay? That if they will just go and get on into your car unless you tell them to stop. No, don't get in my car, okay? And if a cop asks you if he can look in your car or in your pocket, you tell him no. Just say no, okay? Just say no. And the thing you got to remember here, folks, is that you don't know that somebody riding in your back seat didn't drop a seed in your car, okay? And that they'll get you for that, even though you had no idea about it. And if you had some bird seed, you're taking some canary food home to your bird, and there's hemp seed in there, and it fell on your car, you know, even though that hemp seed wasn't illegal, they're going to charge you with it, you know, and it's pretty much guilty until proven innocent. So just say no if a police officer asks to search your vehicle. All right, and the thing is that sometimes they won't even ask you. They'll just go to do it. And you've got to assert your right, okay? Now, the thing is, there's a fine line because they will try to charge you with resisting arrest if you try to assert your rights, okay? This is a common occurrence. You say no, and you got to block the door. Like, if an officer wants to come in your house, he'll walk in, and if you don't put your foot in the way in the doorway, he'll push his way in. And if you don't specifically say no, you are not allowed in, then you basically invited him in. You stood at the door and didn't stop him from coming in. You opened your door and he came in like people normally do. That's what they're going to say. He invited us in, okay? And if you just let him get in your car, they're going to say that you consented. You've got to assert your right. Now, I don't know how to draw the fine line between whether you're resisting arrest or whether you're asserting your rights, but you got to find that fine line. And let me tell you, you're way better off if you have something in your car getting charged with resisting arrest than to not assert your right, okay? You're better off getting charged with resisting arrest because resisting arrest is generally a $100 fine, and what is in your car could get you 20 years, and it happens all the time. So assert your rights, all right? And the thing is that this woman was asserting her right by not letting go of her purse, okay? That the police were taking it from her. They did not have grounds to just take it from her, or they would have, but they were trying to get her to give up consent, okay? And people were informing the woman, hey, you do not have to consent to a search. And she said, I know, and she held on to it, okay? And then the police officers told people that they were not allowed to cross a line, and they pointed at the ground. And so people stood there, and they told the officers, hey, you know, this is a crime. You're taking her purse. You have no right to take her purse. This is a crime, okay? And basically what happened is the police officers were intimidated, okay? And people were chanting at them. And they were outnumbered, okay? And they pushed right into the middle. This happened right in front of the microphone, okay? We didn't surround them. They went into the middle of us, okay? And people stood there and let them know that they thought that this woman's rights were being violated. But nobody in any way did I see them attack the police, okay? The police attacked us. They maced people indiscriminately. They didn't care who had anything to do with what. They didn't care if you were just walking through that park that day or were fishing and wanted to see what was going on. They didn't care. They maced people indiscriminately. They chased a woman through the crowd, and it showed on the news, who had just walked by an officer, and he maces her and then chases her through the crowd, and she's screaming, "I'm looking for my baby, I'm looking for my baby," and he didn't care, okay? But as soon as they saw the cameras on him, boy, did those police officers stand up straight and chew their gum and try to keep that clean image going, because they knew that this was going to come back to haunt them. That now the cameras are rolling.
Now it is.
Okay? And I'm telling you, what happened to me was a police officer jumped out and struck me in the face while I was telling them that they were violating this woman's right, and that they slammed my friends to the ground, and they were beating another friend in the face who was holding his arms out straight, and can be an imposing looking dude. He weighs 280 pounds. He can't help that he looks imposing, okay? He's like 6'3", weighs 280 pounds. No matter what this guy does, he can't help but look imposing. But he stood there with his arms out, and they were jacking him in the face, and he was bleeding. And the crowd got excited. Okay, if you were at a boxing match or a Mallards game and you see blood, you get excited, okay? And you make some noise. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? At a football game, at a tennis match when John McEnroe's going off, you get excited, okay? That's what happens, all right? But nobody was striking the police. All right, and what they did was they slammed me to the ground, and they held my arm and pulled it back like this and screamed, and these are their exact words. Well, I'll spare you the obscenity. They said, "Chris," they knew me by name, they called me by name, and they said, "Chris, if you don't put your arm behind your back, I'm going to break your F-word arm," okay? That's what they said, and I was saying, I can't put my arm behind my back. They're pulling it back like this, and they're sitting on top of me, and they kept hitting my head into the ground, and I wanted so badly to be able to put my arm behind my back, but I couldn't, because he's holding it in a way that I couldn't, all right? And then, after hitting my head into the ground a couple times, and they do this, the police do this, so they can assault you in front of a group of people and make it appear as though you're resisting arrest. Then they picked me up and they started to walk me, and an officer would shove me from the right, and then an officer would shove me from the left, and then they would slam me to the ground again. And I don't know that the officer who slammed me from the ground saw the officer on my right shove me or the one on my left. I don't know. They were on the other side. Who knows? They swung me around. They did everything they could to make it look like I was resisting arrest, and all I did was swear at some police officers who greatly upset me. And I'm sorry, but that is freedom of speech, and if you beat me up, I'm going to swear at you, okay? My next court date's August 21st. It should be uneventful. It's basically just a preliminary where they file motions. We're doing depositions next week. There's a lot of rumors that the officer's leg, who was broken, had injured the leg before, and it was just an old football injury that was susceptible to that kind of thing, okay? Anyway, here, folks, we're here today to let them know that you do not mace people. The problem here is, folks, the war on drugs, okay? We've asked the police to do a mission impossible, all right? We're asking way too much of them. They will never be able to stop drugs, and the lawmakers have placed them in a position of confrontation with us, okay? We don't want confrontation with the police, okay? We want them to legalize it, regulate it, and tax it, okay? As it is right now, the government has no control whatsoever over marijuana or drugs, because it is completely in the black market, controlled by a lot of criminals, okay? Not that every person who would sell drugs has criminal intent or even intends to make money. A lot of them are just people who are helping somebody who wants to get high because they like to get high themselves, okay? They have totally good intentions. Okay, this image that Hollywood makes that we're out pushing on corners or whatever, you know, that's what they want, okay? That's what they're trying to get, but still, the average person who gets busted for transportation of drugs or delivery of drugs is somebody who just uses drugs and somebody's begging them for it. These undercover officers, you know, that appear to be like live a lie. They pretend to be one of us, and they totally do everything they can. Come on, come on. Every time I go to a dead show, at the last Hemp Fest, did you not have people that look like cops coming around? What, you're at a Hemp Fest and you didn't bring any dope? What's wrong with you? Come on, break out your dope. Where's your dope? Come on, give me a high. What's wrong with you? You know, like making it like there's something wrong with me if I won't get him high, and they're supposed to be stopping it, and they're encouraging it, okay? Now, if you ask me, somebody who pretends to be somebody they're not, they're liars, okay? They're liars. They're pretending that they want dope when they really don't want it, and then they get upset and charge us and put us in jail for it. Don't ask us for it, okay? You know, it's got to end. We have some other speakers here. Robin Miller, who's running for Senate in Illinois on the Libertarian ticket. Libertarians basically believe in freedom of every form, as long as you don't use coercion or force against another, okay? That means you can smoke your joint, but you can't force anything on anybody, okay, you know? If you're in your home or on your property or the private property of another citizen or even a public property of another citizen, if they own a coffee shop or something, they would be able to say, hey, you can smoke reefer here. But if somebody doesn't want you to smoke reefer on their property or in their coffee shop or whatever, they have a right to say you can't, okay? Because it's their property to use as they wish, all right? And as long as we're all consenting adults, we can we can smoke our reefer as long as we're on our property or the property of somebody who allows it, okay? This is an important aspect. They have a lot of other issues they take. I think it's important. It's all based on freedom. It comes down to one thing, freedom, okay? If you want some big government social program, if you want to see some social program happen, you should go out and make it happen and not expect everyone else to fund it, okay? Without force, all right? You know? If you want to make us stop doing drugs, put up billboards, talk to us, meet us on the street, hand us flyers, do everything you can to make us not, to convince us not to do drugs, but don't lock us up and put us in jail, okay? That's what we're asking. Applause to Chai.
Well, thanks. This is what happened to me when I was 21 years old, which is about 20 years ago. I got arrested for one joint. And they had it all over the local news all night that I was in jail for possession of a controlled substance. Then they sentenced me to spend 12 consecutive weekends in jail. And during that time, I was in with a bank robber, a murderer, and a prostitute. It was pretty scary stuff. It's, from that time on, made me be totally pro, and I totally think we're ruining our environment without hemp. I do. You know, when I was a teen, I could get it a lot easier than I can get it now. So I turned to alcohol. And you know what happens with a lot of people with alcohol? Well, I was one of the ones that get addicted to it. I got really addicted. I think alcohol is totally hardcore drug. Totally hardcore. It's legal. It's easily accessible. Why are they wanting us to do that? That very destructive drug that kills so many. Why are they wanting us to? And crack. Crack on the corner. That's what they're selling. You can't just say, hey, you want to smoke a doobie? Yeah, you have to get this crack that makes you so greedy, and it makes you so, you just have to have more and more and more, and it costs so much, and you forget your priorities, like paying your rent and paying your light bills. Now, crack is a nasty thing.
I want to introduce Rob. Rob is with the Festival of Life Committee. A little bit about the Festival of Life. The Festival of Life went on during the Democratic Convention in 1968. They were demonstrating against the war in Vietnam, and it ended up being the police were rather brutal, and it was shown on the news every night, people chanting, the whole world is watching, the whole world is watching, as the police were beating people down in the street, straight people, whoever, they didn't care. But some yippies joined in on a parade, and the police, in order to stop them, beat them and beat all the people on the sidelines, and were pushing old women through plate glass windows in downtown Chicago. I mean, this was a crazy event. All right, and what happened, what the results of the Festival of Life that went on during the Democratic Convention of '68 in Chicago was that it was one of the turning points in the for the anti-war movement. Before that, most people just looked at the protesters and didn't sympathize with them. After that, they seen that on TV, and then they saw what happened, and they said, "Wow, this is wrong. That we're beating these people down in the street. This is wrong." And so it helped turn the tide in the anti-war movement. Okay, it was a very important, crucial moment. Well, this summer the Democratic Convention returns to Chicago. Okay, and as well the Festival of Life is going to be there. Mayor Daley was the mayor in '68, and Mayor Daley Jr. is now the mayor. Okay, Abby Hoffman focalized the Festival of Life in '68, and now Andrew Hoffman is helping to focalize in '96. Okay. And another important fact is the police have printed shirts, the Chicago police have printed shirts that say, "We kicked Abby's ass in '68 and we'll kick Andrew's ass in '96, okay? So there might be a little tension there, but what's going to happen is we're going to get thousands of people. We're hoping for 500,000 people to show up at the Democratic Convention and protest the war on drugs, folks. Every media outlet in the country is going to be there, and they're going to be pointing at us, and they're going to say, "Hey, this is what the people in the streets are saying. We have to show them that we don't want their drug war." Okay? So anyway, Rob here is with the Festival of Life. I hope I didn't give his speech for him. But he's going to address you and tell you about it. Everybody, let's hear a round of applause for Rob.
Yeah!
Wow. All right, how you doing? I'm from New York City. I work with an organization called Cures Not Wars. We're sponsoring the first day of the Festival of Life, which is Stop the Drug War. All right, yeah, back in 1968, Abby Hoffman was there. There were a ton of kids. They called themselves yippies, and they all got beat up and destroyed by the cops for just trying to have a party in the park. As I understand, I had come from a benefit that night to come down to Credit Island to speak at this gathering, and I was there at 7 o'clock, and there was one lone cop car, and there was nobody in it. I'm driving around going, "Damn, man, I came 4.5 hours for nothing." And then I heard this rumor that, a bunch of hippies were stoned and wild and broke a cop's leg. And that's why there was a riot. So you all just trying to have a party and having a riot on your heads are really following the past of a generation about 28 years ago. Once again in Chicago, there's going to be a gathering of people to stop the war. This time, it's to stop the drug war. This time, it's to stop the violence here in our own communities. The fact that it's illegal to smoke hemp, the fact that Ibogaine, the drug the gentleman was talking about, is criminal to administer to a sick drug addict, where it's proven by the United States government to cure his addiction, is a sick, perverted thing. Okay, we have very little time. Both sides of the party, Republican and Democrat, they're like in a contest. Who gets to build more prisons first? Us or them? They're really not about you. There is a prison industry whose fodder is the people of the United States. So there are tools of the state to feed its industry that consumes money. This is a loop. This is an addictive loop. The government needs Ibogaine, all right? But like an addict, they don't want to change their habits. So us as mature citizens, us as strong young people, have to go out and demand the war to stop. We have to make a stance. We need to confront the police. We need to confront the brutality. We must stay together in numbers to protect ourselves, because if we don't, we're all in jail. And the thing is, there's an industry behind your imprisonment. There is an industry in the drug war, especially with hard drugs. They're coming into the United States many times through other governments or our own government to get quick, ready cash, and also to be dispersed in communities that they want to keep basically drunk or stupid or fucked up. Pot doesn't have that type of debilitating character on the people, so the people use it in mass. Pot, when you smoke pot, you don't want to get drunk and you don't want to really get wasted out on heroin or something. So pot is more of a war on pot because it doesn't debilitate you. It doesn't make you a slave to a dealer or to the state as it services you in treatment or jail or their methadone clinic. If you want to liberate yourselves, you have to take over your own government. And if they're not going to provide a space for you to protest, you have to take the street. And if you don't take the street, if you just stay at home, next year when you try to do your party on Credit Island, they'll do more than pepper gas young women and children. They'll really come after you. This is a great protest out here. This is a fantastic vote. I want to see you all in Chicago. Over here we have a ton of literature. Anybody who wants to help stop the drug war, please pick up some literature and posters now. Is everybody going to come to Chicago this summer? Yeah! Are we going to stop the drug war? Are we going to confront police brutality in the form of the Chicago police and make them stop? Or are we just going to stay at home? You got a vote? I want to see it up there. I want to see you all up. And I really don't have much more to say except please grab some of our flyers, grab some of our things, and vote for cures, not wars. Thanks a lot. Name is Jackson Club. Jackson Club used to live in Davenport here. He lives in Wisconsin now where he vocalizes up there. He was run out of town some 15, 20 years ago for organizing this kind of thing right here. Okay, he's now editor of a newspaper, publisher of a newspaper called The Zinger. It has something, I'm not exactly sure. Zinger was like somebody who got busted for libel right in the 1700s, and that has something to do with why we have the First Amendment, okay? The Zinger guy, I'm not exactly sure. And the byline in the paper says, "We sue cops for fun and profit." You know, and that there's no way you can shut us down because if you kill us, we'll be martyrs and people will rally to our demise or whatever. But anyway, where's Jackson at? Oh, Jackson Club. Let's hear it for Jackson Club. Woo! I'm not as rowdy as the other speakers. I got a slight cold, and I'm here through the courtesy of pseudoephedrine. And usually, you don't see me up here like this. If you call the hotline from the Harvest Fest or something, chances are I'm that voice on the phone that says, "Yeah, I'll go find Ben," or answers the mail or something. Actually, I'm not sure. You couldn't really say I was running out of town exactly for this. I was running out of town for selling pounds and launching a missile attack on the Rock Island Arsenal. Sorry. If you put crushed mylar on the nose cones of Estes rockets, you can tie-dye the radar field, and you get this great mental image of some guy there watching this screen and watching this feather blip, 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 and screaming for the commanding officer. We didn't quite get to the point of dropping little green mice in parachutes. This is the first time I've seen a crowd like this since I think like Davenport, Vanderveer Park, about 71. And after that I wandered out of here. America's not just a police state, it's a really stupid and trivial police state. I had this job for most of the summer where I was a spy for Colonel Sanders. I'm not making this up, any organization that gets so big will develop an intelligence function. Now, as long as I was being paid to drive all over the place, that ugly little cop car over there I just put 12,000 miles on the East Coast, as long as I was doing that, I'm testing chicken and handing out boycott Pepsi stuff and advertising the festival, the Harvest Fest, and putting out zangers. Ben and I were bickering. There wasn't a zanger for a couple of years. We're doing web pages, and it'll be back as a magazine by the convention, I hope, as long as the phone isn't too busy, you know. Drop us a card, but do call. Aside from what Rob said, I actually came down to tell people, yeah, go to Chicago. He did such a good job of it. Remind you something that recently happened, to my understanding, that some of the more traditional lefty activists that don't focus so much on hemp came to the realization that they'd screwed up. That I'm not sure exactly which one, maybe David Dillinger, whoever said, you know, we didn't realize how destructive and horrible the drug war would be. So there isn't that friction there that, cool. everybody's sort of shaking hands, made up, and we have a pretty good united front going in there. That looks pretty good. This isn't quite as big a crowd as I expected, but I understand Credit Island. Last time at Credit Island, does anybody remember T-shirts that said Quad Cities had a cop clubbing a hippie on them? I was selling those things at a Credit Island concert, and the cops wouldn't let me do it. The T-shirt vendors they were protecting were selling Invisible Empire Knights of the Ku Klux Klan at a Jay Giles and Edgar Winter concert, as I recall it was. That's pretty horrific. That has a lot to do with what this town is like. I didn't know who the sheriff would be left at over behind the high school. I'm actually from Bettendorf. That's a horrible admission. Anybody? What, are you from Bettendorf? Okay. DHS, class of 70. Cool. I left Iowa because I ran out of towns to be run out of. I didn't hit Marshalltown, after a while. It's going to be the same old thing, so I took off. The best announcement right now is Harvest Fest this year in Madison is October the 5th. And of course, we're all going to be in Chicago, aren't we? Yep. Yeah? Well, and we're all going to be in Madison on October the 5th. And hopefully there'll be a decent calendar up on the webpage that we can all access in the meantime. So if you have anything, pick up a Zanger. The post office box is still good. Drop me a card and put your email address on it. We'll start reflecting back to you. Thanks. Yeah. Flag here. It's got a Native American. He's got a peace pipe. Okay. And right now there's marchers here. There are people in this crowd today, and I have met people at gun shows, I have met people at public displays, I have met people in all the possible places that a candidate can meet people who have said, I know someone, I am someone, I'm related to someone who has lost their cars, their homes, everything they own, because of asset forfeiture. This is legalized theft, ladies and gentlemen, and this should be ended immediately. There is absolutely no justification for this. A man I talked to at a gun show indicated that his brother, who was living with his mother, was selling marijuana. His mother lost her house. She wasn't selling. How did this work this way? This is a return to the days of the sheriff of Nottingham, where he would use his influence to rob the poor people of the English countryside and give the money to the government. And in those days, a man named Robin of Locksley fought back from Sherwood Forest. I'm asking you to send Robin the Libertarian to Washington to fight for your rights. Thank you very much. His name is Joe, and he went to the caucuses in Iowa. He met every single candidate and addressed them and asked them questions on medical marijuana. He told Bob Dole right to his face in front of all the media that he has no compassion for Americans because he did not believe that people should be allowed to have medical marijuana. Let's hear it for Joe. Thanks, Chris. Yes, I came here to speak today, but before I make my speech, I'd like to tell you a little story about three friends we all share. Once upon a time, in a land far, far begone, there lived a friend called Freedom, and his associates, Liberty and Justice. For all their lives, they'd gone around protecting the basic rights of the independent pursuers. Old man Democracy had raised his family well, but he was getting up in age, and his institutions were beginning to crack, and his constitution was being torn apart by the makers of the rules. Now, Mr. Wing Wright, leader of the Rules Committee, had hired a lawyer of much finesse,
of Mr. Sick'em Suck'em. His job was to take away freedom, lock up liberty, and forget about justice. But freedom, liberty, and justice were clever little bastards, and they hid their tracks well. So after many months of follow-ups and leads down blind alleys, Mr. Sick'em Suck'em went to the Rules Committee and asked to break the rules. Now, there was much to do inside the chamber, and a small debate broke out, or the vote was hence approved. So, armed with rubber warrants, Mr. Sick'em Suck'em rounded up freedom, liberty, and justice and tried to throw away the key, but a trial was demanded. No deals were set aside. So as each witness stood up and pointed in evidence, and with the reward was quick release and early parole. Now the jury came assembled 12 pieces to the pie. And freedom talked of liberty, who'd lost his mind in lockup, while justice just sat there mumbling about a warrant called illegal. And the truth was overruled so many times she left the courtroom in tears. And when the verdict was unwrapped and a phone call to appeals was put on hold, the black-robed God soberly set sentence. Freedom shall be no more, and liberty is canceled. And justice, well, justice was never seen again. Thank you. Yeah. Now I'm Joe Sanders, and you can call me Mr. Joe. And when these good people who brought us all back together here honored my request to speak tonight, I thought, you know what I'd really like to do? I'd like to come up here, pull out a marijuana cigarette, light it, and see how long it would take for the police to storm the stage, knock me down, and handcuff me. I'm figuring that'd take about 15, 20 seconds at tops, but in the end results, I'd get arrested. And I don't want to get arrested. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all here. Because we're sick and tired of getting arrested. But then it dawned on me, you know what I could do? I could light a marijuana cigarette, take a big puff, and inhale it, unlike the president. And by the time the police got to the stage, knocked me down, and handcuffed me, I could have ate the evidence. But I realized they would still arrest me for inciting a riot. And I can just see the morning papers. 30 police arrest one-man riot. So what I decided to do was come here and talk to the police, to the judges, to the prosecuting attorneys, and to the politicians, who from here on out shall be known as the government. Now, when you talk to the government in this country, you usually draw a fly called the press, which hangs around the weeds with its pencils and its cameras, recording the events, and then goes home and puts its own slanted presentation for the public. Now, there's a number out here that I want you to remember. It's called 20 million. Can you remember 20 million? Let me hear you say 20 million. 20 million! Okay, now you go all across this country, from Oregon to Florida to Maine to California, and you ask any police officer, just exactly what is wrong with marijuana? And they'll hee-haw around until finally they all seem to answer it the same way. Whoops. It's a gateway drug. Bullshit. First of all, it's not a drug, it's an herb. It's an herb created by God, and God did not create hemp so that we can all go to jail. No, sir, he did not. But let's get to the word gateway. Now, according to the Webster's Dictionary, the definition of gateway is an access, an entrance to something. To what, though? What does the government say the gateway is for? They say marijuana, if you smoke marijuana, in a matter of short period of time, you will become addicted to hard drugs. This is what the government has been telling the police, and it's been handed down for the last few years, and the press, in their investigative reporting style, takes their word for it, doesn't look at the other side of the story, and repeats the mantra over and over again. Marijuana leads to hard drugs. But have they ever done a study to prove that point? Well, let me tell you, folks, the government does studies, and they study this drug problem like it was the most important things in their lives. And they have proven, and they have looked at one study they did, was to find out how many people do drugs and what drugs do they do. Well, they came up with a number. And they found out that in this country, there are 20 million, there's that number, 20 million people in this country who smoke marijuana at least once a month. And in this same study, they also found out that in the last 10 years or so, the number of heroin addicts has remained around 1 million to 1.1 million. and the number of cocaine and meth addicts has risen in the last 10 years to about 1 million, but is now going back down because people are realizing that crack cocaine is the devil's work. So, that's 2 million hard drug addicts. Now, are you good at math here, folks? Because we're going to do a little math now. We got, remember that number again, 20 million? We got 20 million marijuana smokers. Now we got 2 million marijuana smokers who became hard drug addicts. That leaves 18 million people who smoke marijuana who don't become hard drug addicts. And according to my math, that's 90% of the people who smoke marijuana do not find it to be a gateway drug. The government itself proves that their war on marijuana is a big, fat lie. And where are the newspapers to print that? And that is why they won't debate us. That is why they won't debate us, because they do not have a leg to stand on. They know they can't win this debate. And in this community, you have 4 or 5 news organizations who claim to care about this community, but where is one of them, public or private, that will bring these two sides together and discuss this publicly so the people of this city can understand both sides of the story and make a rational decision? Where are the press on this? Now, in this day, in this country, you can grow your own personal amount of marijuana in your closet. You have nothing to do with the sale or resale, but because of this act, you can lose your home, you can lose your job, you can lose your family, and you can go to prison. And with the lack of beds, another child molester is released on early parole. Now their answer seems to be build more prisons. Well, there's a deal, America. Raise your taxes and give away your freedom. What red-blooded American would put up with this? Who are the bigger fools in this ball game? I advocate the legalization of marijuana for one reason only, to get the government off my back. When we allow those whom we have put in charge to take liberties with our principles, we step out of the best of ourselves and into a wolf with sheep's clothing. We are kidding ourselves if we continue to ignore our social problems while expecting the police to do anything more than struggle to contain the rising tide of injustice. For while we righteously claim to be saving ourselves, we are in fact annihilating the very foundation this country was built upon. We are fighting a war of religion, a war of rights, a war against this and a war against that. Well, hey, America, what about a war for peace? What about a war for understanding? What about a war for love? What is so crazy about peace, love, and understanding? You know, if it was good enough for Jesus, it ought to count for something today.
Can't tax it.
But the last time I saw peace, love, and understanding, they were living in the 60s, getting the crap kicked out of them by the 80s, and now here we are in the middle of the 90s and at each other's throats. Some progress, huh? So I want you all to do me a favor now. I want you all to come together and repeat after me. Peace, love, understanding. Can you do that? Peace, love, understanding. Get louder. Peace, love, understanding. One more time. Peace, love, understanding. We'll see you out in Chicago. With us, I personally witnessed a dare session where they had these dare kids together and they had an effigy of a drug dealer and they had these kids beat it up, okay? And they're teaching them hate and hatred and anger. And if they want us to stop doing drugs, that's not the way. Anything that's done with hatred and anger is bound to fail. It has to be done with love, okay? Try to convince us with love not to do crack. Try to convince us with love not to do heroin. It's got to take love. And with love, we're going to try and convince them to let our people go. Let them free. Set the prisoners free. People doing 20 years for possession, we're going to set them free, okay? I wanted to add to what Joe said.
Joe said that they call marijuana a gateway drug, okay? The statistic, this was provided me by Dana Beal, an activist from the East Coast, and he said that in America, 16% of the people who smoke pot will go on to try heroin, okay? 16% of the people is the statistic that he found somewhere, okay? In Amsterdam, they used to have a real bad heroin problem, okay? And they had drugs every bit, if not more, than here in the United States, okay? Amsterdam Holland has always been famous for being a world port. You know, they do a lot of trading around the world, and so they had a lot of drugs introduced there, and they had a real bad heroin problem. What they did in Holland was they separated soft drugs from hard drugs, okay? They separated marijuana. See, we're taught here that we teach our children that, my God, if you ever try marijuana, you are lost. You are a lost cause. You're hopeless. Your whole life is ruined. You might as well be a heroin addict, okay? This is what we teach our kids, okay? And the problem with that is that our kids, when they grow up and they actually do take that first hit off of a joint, they say, wow, this stuff is harmless. They lied when they told that this stuff is so bad, okay? And they're trying to use heroin, in comparison to heroin, to make marijuana look really bad. And what happens here is that the kid says, marijuana is harmless. They lied. And then they think that heroin is equally as harmless, okay? So 16% of the people who smoke cannabis will go on to use heroin. In Amsterdam, the number is 1.8%, okay? A vast, vast difference. All right, and the reason is because they don't tell their kids that. They separate hard drugs from soft drugs. Okay? They don't act like they're a lost cause if they ever take a hit off a joint. They tell them the truth, okay? The dear officers need to start telling the truth to our children. When they basically tell them mistruths, whatever it takes to try and keep them from hitting that first joint, that what they don't understand is they are the ones specifically sending them down that road. They are making what is not a gateway into a gateway. Okay? And another thing on the drug front is there's a drug known as Ibogaine, okay? They actually test Olympic athletes for this because it gives stamina. All right, but Ibogaine, if taken in the right dose, they did studies, and they're responding to our honk if you like hemp sign. They found that if they were to just give this drug to heroin addicts, go to a party and just give this drug to heroin addicts, and not tell them anything about it, just, hey, this is a good high, and give it to heroin addicts, that 80% of them would never do heroin again without anybody telling them that they shouldn't. Because this drug, this chemical in itself, has the ability to wipe out any kind of withdrawal, and at the same time make them, in their mind, reach a state to where they look at their life and say, hey, I'm a heroin addict. I have diminished my control. I want to be the master of my own destiny. I know who I am, that I have the power. It gives you the willpower and the desire to be the best person you can, okay? And the strength, and that it also has the effect of diminishing, to giving you more energy, and you will need less sleep for up to 6 months, okay? One usage of this. The drug is called Ibogaine, and they want to be able to use it to treat heroin addicts, but they don't like that because it is a mind-altering drug, okay? And using a mind-altering drug to get off other mind-altering drugs just shocks the hell out of them, okay? They want to put you on methadone, which is more addictive than heroin, more deadly than heroin. They want to put a heroin addict on it and just keep them strung out, but they won't get the buzz, okay? We're saying that there are alternatives to the drug war that we need to pursue, or at least study or open debate, okay? As it is, anybody says anything that ain't, just say no, and you're demonized as like being opposed to, okay? Is their drug war so fragile that it can't be looked at objectively?
Post office, they can't stop
what people want. People will pay any price, risk anything to get what they want. And that's something that hemp opponents need to understand, is that if people want something and they don't harm anyone in the consumption of that product, it's not a crime. It needs to not be treated as a crime. Because how are you going to fix it? The prohibition resulted in raising the cost. What people used to consume was beer and wine. But when prohibition came in, we made the drug, alcohol, easier to smuggle. We went to distilled spirits. We packed more alcohol into a smaller container. The hip flask, where people had, maybe a fifth of gin. You know, a lot of the glass bottles you see in the liquor store is from the days of the hip flask, where you would stick a bottle of alcohol in your pants. Today, what used to be a fairly innocent drug, the white powder cocaine, has been concentrated and made smokable because it's easier to smuggle. And we raise the potency because as long as if you're gonna do time for smuggling, you might as well smuggle the most in you can at the same time you're doing it, right? So the market force that works on this is the one that raises the potency, raises the concentration, makes the drugs stiffer, and you have to cut them, when you get them. Then again, when it's illegal, there's no quality control. People say, "Oh, what about if we legalize this stuff today? Why? There'd be people, getting bad dope." Well, let's look at the problem, sir and ma'am. If you legalized it today, then you've got a business going. And do you run your customers off by putting strychnine in your heroin or PCP in your pot? No, you give them the best, the highest quality for the money. The best possible product because you want to keep the business. Real free market economics would fix this problem. But neither of the older parties want to see real free market economics because they have a vested interest.
Hey, whoa, whoa! I got to mix up and move along with this. So up and down the sidewalk. Come on, mix it up. Make it right. We'll go up and down the sidewalk. Let's let everybody know, man. We got to make a scene here so that they can't ignore us, all right?
Ho, ho, we don't want your drug war. Bix Smokes Reefer. Hey, hey, whoa, whoa, we don't want your drug war. Bix Smokes Reefer. Hey, hey, whoa, whoa, we don't want your drug war.
Bix Smokes Reefer!
We don't want your drug war. Bix Smokes Reefer. Hey, hey, ho, ho, we don't want your drug war. Bix Smokes Reefer. Hey, hey, ho, ho, we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. We smoke pot and we like it a lot. No peace, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Justice, no peace. No justice.